Hold it like that.
Oh.
Now just be like,
I can't do this.
yes you can. Just be like, okay guys, here's what we've got coming in. Don't smile.
Audio.
Me? Don't smile?
Yeah, you gotta be like, this is what we have coming in. Stop. Okay.
I can't do it. You guys, this
Tony.
is the worst thing ever.
Alright, go ahead, Britt. Quick.
Alright. Okay guys, so this is what we have going. This, I can't do it. This is the worst.
So we just need to find out what this dog is. It's a pity.
I'm just happy I'm not on a TV show today.
Oh,
So I'm like,
so you're like,
I'm-
yeah.
You're all chilled out, right?
Alright.
Don't smile.
He's still
Stop.
Look at him. Look
I
at
want
him.
just one good
can't
take.
do it.
Okay.
Oh, guys, I can't do it now.
You can do it.
Alright guys, this is what we have coming in. We've got a pity who is dog aggressive. We need to He's dog aggressive.
Yeah.
And he also has issues with children. Plan's gonna be the usual, guys. So we're gonna get him
Sean, you're not helping. Do it again. The plan is gonna be the usual.
in. Literally outside. The plan's gonna be the usual, guys. Alright, so we're gonna get him in. So the plan's gonna be the usual, guys. Alright, we're gonna get him in, we're gonna talk to them, we're gonna figure out exactly what their issues are, what their goals are, and then we're gonna get to work. Is that good enough?
Do you need apparatuses to be able to?
I've got one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do you need the iPad?
No.
No?
I think I've got this.
Okay, you've got this.
I've got this.
Okay. And is this at a nice like? Are we recording? Last episode, you were a little cut out, and
Yeah.
I felt sad because there was like a little
kinda artistic,
sliver,
though.
little sliver of your face. It felt more like from my OCD stuff. The whole time I was like, just move it, just move it, just move it, just move it.
Sorry.
Right? So I had to go see the doctor right after last week's episode aired. Okay, so I can jump out of here. Can I jump out of Barbie Land?
Just don't watch any videos.
No videos. I won't touch them. A lot of tension between us.
No, it's because we've got
Things
our
got rough.
we've got our fancy lavaliers that are actually hooked up to our phones, so it's not the most ideal situation, but
That's called ghetto.
no, it's not. It's not ghetto. It's road.
That's what Dr. Evil would say.
Ghetto.
Very nice. Very nice.
Oh, I can do it.
You got. She's got so many skills. Do you care to indulge them any of your like?
Frau Verbissena. Sie geht zu Ihnen. How are things? I've come to embrace the love that dare not speak its name. To my right is my lover. We met at the LPGA tour. Her name is Una Brow. She like rips her little like, glove and puts her hand on the glove. He's like, right on.
And what about Fat Bastard?
First things first.
And what's the next line?
I can't say it.
You can't say it? We could bleep it out.
Where is your
That's my favorite one.
I just booked a flight to Norway.
Did you? Wow.
I booked a flight to Norway this morning. And I found a ticket on Priceline. I was Skyping my very best friend who lives in Norway. And I found a ticket on Priceline for $1,000, which is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
This is like in a few months. And she's like, you should go to this other site and stuff. They've like, the Norwegians are all crafty. So we went to this other site and we found one for literally $500.
Are you serious? Wow.
And
Did
what
they
it
strap
was,
you to the wing?
No, what it
With
was
goggles?
they basically give you like, okay, we'll see if we can get you this price by the end of the day.
Yeah.
And they got it. I got
Wow. Does that mean that Q&A Saturday is done for the
It might
for
be.
the summer?
it. No.
Wow.
Just 1 week.
Oh, just a week?
Yeah.
Oh, that's just a jaunt.
Yeah.
You could even we could Skype it.
Oh,
We could do like a
From
Skypey,
Norway.
Skypey from
Awesome.
Norway. Cool. Congratulations. I know
Thank
you've been
you.
wanting to go for a long time.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys know, but this young lady's actually from,
Well, my mom's
your
from
mom,
Norway.
Your mom's from Norway. And you've spent much of your time there. And your brother was in the military there, right? Keeping the peace. And
He was the King's Guard,
he was the King's Guard, hand of the king.
which in Norway, we're okay.
I'm taking off for New Orleans.
That's right.
I got like what, I'm keeping it loose, like a 4 to 6 week trip, starting like early part of September, like
First
right
week
after
of
our,
September.
yeah, right after our last board and trains go home. So I won't be here for a while, and that means I'm going to have to get creative about getting your behind down there in order to keep Q&A Saturday going for all y'all folks.
We got a lot of cool things coming up, guys. We've got Sean's doing that trip, which I'm going to be heading down, going back and forth.
Real quick, we have so many clients in New Orleans.
Yeah.
It just kind of hit critical mass, if that's the right term.
Yep.
Where we've got oodles and oodles of contact forms that have come in from people that are just like, they need help, they need help, they need help. So didn't want to make them wait any longer, so I'm headed down there to do some help. I think Laura's going to come down sporadically to help out. Oh, I was supposed to be on TV yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Tell them about it.
Right? I was supposed to be on the country music channel. Yeehaw! With, what's his name? Josh Wolf. It's the Josh Wolf Show, and I'm not familiar with him, but I guess he's a comedian.
Yes.
Comedian guy. And he's got his own late night show, like Thursdays through Sundays. And they contacted me and asked if I'd come on the show, which you guys all know, like, that kind of stuff is not my bag. People think, oh, Sean's on does TV. Like, it's so stressful. I was so stressed out for like the 4 days leading up. I was just, if I chewed my nails, they'd be all gone. But we're going to go on. We're going to do tricks with Belle and all that stuff. And Chelsea Handler, if any of you guys know who she is, was supposed to be the other person in the segment with me. And the whole goal was, or the whole concept was, Chelsea's got a dog that doesn't listen, and Josh has got a dog that doesn't listen. So I was going to show off a little bit with Belle, and then I was going to attempt to train their dogs. And the basic concept was that comedy would ensue at that point when I tried to train their dogs. And but it got canceled at the last second, and my TV career was cut short.
Cut short before it started.
Yeah, before I ever got my foot really they'd called me and they'd been asking about my hand size for the Hollywood Walk of Fame, so they've been like checking in from my dimensions, but alas, they won't be needing to do any of that. So
Well, in the future.
at least not currently.
Yeah, right
So
now.
I just said put that stuff on ice.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
let you know when I'm back.
The guy's like, yeah, dude.
He's like, yeah, we got plenty of cement for you. Don't worry. Anyway, so I'd say we need to move on because we're
jump in.
getting a little long in the tooth.
Yep.
Airplane's landing just in time to deliver our opening. Hey everybody, it's Sean from The Good Dog, and this is the lovely and future traveling to Norway and the ex-Barbie model. Laura Morgan, and all this good stuff is the Good Dogs Q&A Saturday, episode number 39, and yeah, boom, that's where we're at, 39. We're almost headed into the 1 year mark of this little odyssey. I went back, I looked at some of the fun old stuff, like the New Orleans one, where we're like out in and Jackson Square, and we just got a microphone.
I'm gonna cut together a montage at some point. Probably at the year anniversary, we'll cut together
like
a
some of the
montage.
best stuff.
Yeah.
There's some pretty cool stuff. The New Orleans one, we're actually, I don't know if you remember, we're doing as we're walking through the French Quarter. You've got the mic out and you're interviewing
Yeah, I
me,
remember.
and I'm like answering questions as we're walking, which is
I
pretty
remember
cool.
that.
So anyways, we're boogieing along, and but I think it's time to jump into the actual. I think we've delayed long enough.
We've delayed long enough.
Let's jump in.
Question number 1, Rebecca Hoffman says, what would your suggestions be for handling and rehabbing a crate-phobic dog? The case is a 4.5-year-old Tibetan Mastiff. He's very well socialized.
Does that sound familiar?
Well exercised, food motivated, knows basic obedience, doesn't pull or react to dogs. Developed separation anxiety after a family's 2-week vacation 2 years ago, and it slowly progressed. Now when Dad is out of town, it's at its worst. He chewed his way out of the garage. He does have a territorial bite history, which is bad.
What's his name, by the way? Sure it's not Gus?
He has obliterated most other attempts at containing him. They now have a steel-welded custom crate. He doesn't hesitate to enter as long as the owners are home. He's mostly fine when they leave. He drools constantly and tries to dig his way out. He's caused injury to himself in escape attempts. How would you handle this, and what would you do to the dog in between training sessions? With the dog in between training
Okay. Rebecca, great question and a timely question. My goodness, like, I didn't know there were that many Tibetans roaming around with like identical issues, but maybe that's like breed stuff. Like, you know, I mean, I know the territorial biting stuff and the drooling and kind of like, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think a lot of them have issues with containment stuff because they're typically like freewheeling dudes.
Yeah.
So that can be challenging. Anyway, so we just had the same situation with a Tibetan Mastiff. I think he was 3 though, named Gus. Big giant guy. Several bites on his record. The last trainer he went to, he's been to 2 board and trains prior to us. The last one he went to, they had to call his mom and have his mom come retrieve him that same day because of his antics in the crate, because they couldn't control him, couldn't deal with him, and he was melting down in the crate and they didn't know what to do with him. So I think I feel you on this one. I think we're in the same boat. So who's snoring over there?
Maybe.
Stop it. So so here's what we did. So we had him come in. Initially, we couldn't get an e-collar on him because his coat was so big and he wasn't shaved down. And so we were kind of at a loss for the first couple of days, and he was definitely giving us a hard time in the crate. So what I did at that point was I used the dominant dog collar, and basically whenever he was having like a meltdown, I'd go out, pull him out of the crate, and I used the dominant dog collar, which is basically a fitted slip lead attached to a leash, and I would apply pressure up and hold that pressure up and wait until he would relax. And basically the dominant dog collar takes the drive out of the dog. It relaxes, it slows the dog, it chills the dog down, constricts tightly around their neck, which just causes the dog to just kind of relax. And then I'd put him back in. And so that's how I got through the first couple of days, which were definitely not...
A walk in the park.
No, I wish you would have done that like Dr. Evil. Oh.
A walk in the park.
And thank you. And it wasn't a walk in the park. I was up for a couple of days. And so we finally got his mom to come in and shave him down. He was on muzzle, but he was just too dangerous to handle at that point. And so once we got him shaved down on 2 sides, then we put an e-collar on him, and then we could use the e-collar to work through that stuff. And so I don't recommend, like, the dominant dog collar is kind of like the less better choice, the least good, the not preferred choice.
Last place.
Yeah, well, the I can't find the word I'm looking for.
The least best.
The least best. Okay, so the dominant dog collar is the least best. But what I would suggest is if you can get an e-collar on the dog, and you know, sometimes you can use longer contact points and make contact. With this guy that was just too tough for us, so shave the dog down. We used beard trimmer. Get yourself a nice couple rectangular landing spots for the e-collar. Get it on him. Make sure that he's e-collar conditioned, which would be great beforehand to make sure that you don't have any fallout, which you can do with very simple like little recall stuff if you're able to handle him like that. I can't remember if they said if he was e-collar trained or not.
No, I don't think so.
But basically what you got to do is you got to interrupt the escalation, right? So you got a dog who's going into a crate, he's had negative experiences in the past, and he's starting to get worked up and panic, right? Every moment you miss, every moment of escalation that lifts up, that gets harder and harder to reverse that stuff. So what we want to do is we use the e-collar to interrupt that escalation at the very beginning of that escalation, right? What Gus would do, and I don't know if your guy sounded like this, but it was like a monkey sound. It was like, except like excruciatingly loud, right? I mean, he's a giant dog, so that was like amplified times like 100.
I didn't get that. Can you do it?
No, I can't. It was so loud and it was so disconcerting, and it would happen on like 45-minute like cycles. And so I'd go out and I'd correct him with the dominant dog collar, and then he'd mellow out, and then I'd go on, and he'd mellow out. Finally got the e-collar on him, excuse me. And so then I'd use the e-collar to correct that. So that would be, and when I say correct that, I would find levels. I'd start low, but then I'd find levels that Gus or any dog I'm working with, because this is an occurrence constantly with dogs that come in here. We use the e-collar to block that escalation, calm the dog down, start creating new habits in the crate, right? A lot of people will do things like, well, you got to do positive association, and you've got to do like feed them in the crate. You can feed them in the crate, all sorts of great stuff, but if the emotional state of the dog is so intense, the association, none of that positive association stuff is going to do anything or have enough value to override that. So you actually need a corrective communication. You need a communication that blocks, that corrects that state. You can't just say like, here, feel better about this. After you correct the state, then maybe you can start creating some more positive associations. But initially, you've got to block it. So that is kind of my long-winded answer to that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Because I think this is a client dog for Rebecca. And so I think she said the owner got a really tough crate, which is awesome. That's an absolute necessity. A crate that's unbreakable or like flexible. A crate that the dog can push against. The dog's going to continue to push against because he feels like he's making progress. So a crate that's actually foolproof, absolutely foolproof, is absolutely necessary. Sounds like they've got that. I'd get the e-collar on the dog, and I would start going to work on that. But somebody has to be present. So that's the trick. Somebody's got to be present as you work the dog through this process. You can't you could put a bark collar on him, but the problem with bark collars is that they can trigger and then re-trigger, and if no one's around, especially initially, you don't know how the dog's going to respond to it, and you can have panic stuff like that. The cool thing about the e-collar, the remote e-collar, is that you can be as sensitive to any sound that he makes, which a lot of bark collars won't catch. You can correct those very early, and you can be very fluid on the levels that you want to use for that. And if you can't use an e-collar, like I said, what I did was dominant dog collar, which is basically another corrective tool that creates an aversive stimulus. Basically, when you make this whole sound, when you have this explosive thing, it's going to be uncomfortable for you to do that. And as soon as you relax, it becomes very comfortable again, which is just a very, across the board, a big part of training and behavior mod is teaching dogs this is comfortable, this is uncomfortable, and being able to motivate behavior along those lines. So that's my answer to Rebecca. Hope that helps. By the way, Gus did great. So after those first couple of days, once we got the e-collar on him, he was awesome. And I know the digging stuff you're talking about. We saw the same same stuff. But if I saw we had a camera, that's another piece of the detail. We had Dropbox camera. I'd watch him, hear him. Oh, he's getting pop, and he'd go, and then he'd lay down.
Break through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just one little piece of the puzzle that's a big part of this, and I'm sure you know this, but separation anxiety is always paired with emotional stuff.
Yeah.
So you've got, Gus, his owner, admittedly.
You always come in with the good stuff.
No, it's because you focus just on the.
I do the mechanics. But this is. I'm so glad you're jumping into this. It's so important.
It's so important because we have clients that struggle when they go home with dogs with separation anxiety.
We're such a good team.
It is.
Go ahead.
While we wait for the plane.
This is the one that's flying you to Norway.
This is.
Yeah. He's just circling. He'll be circling for a few months.
So, we have clients that struggle when they go home after having with dogs with separation anxiety, and we have clients that rock. And very, very, very rarely is it just about the dog and the training and all that.
And the crate, yeah.
And the crate. All I can think about is...
That's where the symptoms come out.
Yeah, that's where it comes out. But you've got, with Gus, his owner, who's awesome. She admittedly had a lot of emotional relationship attachment with the dog.
Yeah.
So this attachment becomes like a drug for the dog, and then the dog resents that drug, and then when you leave, starts to lose its mind in the crate.
It becomes dependent on that drug.
Yeah. And so not only do you have to use the actual techniques and all that good stuff and be diligent about that, but your owners have to be seriously on a no affection diet. Any time that we have anyone that leaves our board and train that goes home that still has trouble with separation anxiety, there's always little pieces that are missing, and typically it's the relationship. It's just not healed. There's just the dog's still testing it because the dog doesn't feel comfortable around the owners because the owners are too soft and are giving too much emotion, too much affection, too much other stuff.
So that's so right on the money. Or the dog just has so many memories of that softness that when they go home, they've done great here, then they go home, airplane landing, then they go home and the dog is reverting back to its old stuff because it's this is how I feel in this environment around you guys. Even though you're correcting me, Even though you're correcting me, I still have that old stuff. So,
Go ahead.
that's a really loud one. So it's imperative for anybody working through that stuff. It's imperative for anybody working through that stuff to understand that it's a battle and it takes time, because you're really trying to undo or reverse a ton of old messages and old programming. It's like if you spoiled your kid, like let's do this really, and this isn't about spoiling for the dog, but imagine you spoiled the bejesus out of your kid, and then you realize he's going down a dark path and he's turning into a monster, and then you went and met with a therapist and they're like, you need some tough love, and you're like, that's right, I do need tough love, and you show up the next day and you're like, it's tough love time, and we're going to lay down the laws, and here's the rules, and you best abide by that. How long do you think it's going to take for your kid to actually go, I buy in? Your kid is going to go, you are somebody else than this, you're telling me this now, but you've been somebody else for all this other time, so prove it to me that you're really this person, and prove it to me that these consequences really matter, and prove it to me that our relationship is going to be different, and that's going to take time, and there's no getting around that. And that's the awesome thing about dogs, is they're like, great, prove it to me.
Yeah.
Right? So
some dogs give it up easier, and some dogs are just like, you got to work for it.
yeah. So separation anxiety can be tough, but mainly because of relationship issues, a lot of residual relationship issues, or like Laura said, when owners go home with the dog, they're not able to create enough emotional distance and enough discipline believability.
Absolutely.
Boy, that's a long answer.
Sorry.
Rebecca, you killed it. The show's done. We're over. Ready? We're out. Great.
All right. Question number 2 from Janet Hanley Daneo, which, if I think I know correctly, we're going to meet her.
You do.
Yeah,
Yep.
at Accelerate and Remote coming up.
Come on down, Janet.
She says, I hope I make it in time for Q&A Saturday. Awesome, you did. I'm kind of stumped with the dog I'm working. I have a 6-month-old Dobie puppy who's crazy insecure. He lunges and jumps backwards, freaks out when approached, submissive urination, the whole act. I've really worked my butt off on socializing him, and it's working. I've actually got him in with a pack of about 20 balanced dogs, and he's coming out of his shell nicely. My question is, I have slowly introduced him to the e-collar to help him tone down his whining and anxiety. I used a low stimulus on constant until he mellows, and then I come off the button. He gives me the physical come down, like laying down or sitting, but the vocalizations increase. I've tried upping the stim, and he just ups his volume of wailing like a banshee. It gets even worse if I walk out of his line of sight. I will have one of my staff try to redirect through foot or hand taps, leashing him and moving him through commands to absolutely no avail. He'll go to place command and just continue the performance. If you guys have any ideas to help me, his owners are on board and are singing my praises of how far he's come, but I feel like I'm going in circles.
Okay. Well, I'd say just put him on this next flight coming through, and do a little altitude rehab. Okay. Janet, insecure Dobie pup. I'm just consulting my notes here. I take notes because I like to be prepared. Intro to e-collar. So one thing I don't know is, I don't know if you've done any extensive e-collar work. I don't know if you've done anything besides just kind of correcting for whining and escalation issues.
Whole program?
Yeah. So I don't know if you've done that. That's the first thing that I would do, though. So if you've got any issues going on with this stuff, insecurity, nervousness, all this stuff, like we've got a Dobie mix here right now that's got major problems with that and is getting better and better and stronger every day. In fact, I just showed a video of that dog. That dog's name is Leia. And basically just doing a full e-collar program, sit, down, place, recall, thresholds, structured walk, all of that with high levels of accountability, high levels of demanding, like in a fair arc, right? Like slowly train the dog, slowly teach the dog, make sure they know everything, and then start adding higher levels of pressure, right? Which means distractions, dogs around, noises, people, umbrellas, stepping over the dog, all that stuff, and then also higher levels of get your butt over here, even as I'm moving around the house, place, like really up the ante with what you're asking of this dog in a training sense, to where the dog, like the whole thing when I put that Leia video up the other day, my whole concept I was trying to get across to everybody is using the training to override the impulse or the state of mind the dog is struggling with, right? So the more training you do, the more patterning you do, the more you say, listen to me, don't listen to your anxiety, the better and stronger and more confident the dog gets. The more the dog learns, I can do this even though I'm freaked out or frightened about it. So that's the first thing. I'd start with the full e-collar program, across the board, no doubt. If you're already doing that, that is super awesome. Manny, can you stop him?
For the love of God, stop.
So, and then as far as like the actual correcting process, right? So we do need to block escalation if that stuff continues even after you're doing a full program. What I would try doing is blocking the escalation a little hotter, a little earlier. I see a lot of people kind of like, when I tell people to correct whining or barking in the crate or elsewhere, like starting at low levels, that doesn't mean forever low levels. It means kind of like, especially if you're not able to e-collar condition the dog, it means like, let's get the dog slowly acclimated to the sensation and then slowly up it. But if the dog is familiar with the e-collar, then, and the dog is whining in place over there, I'm not going to start low and be like, bop, bop, bop. I'm going to go high and try and, I'm going to really, what we talk about capping, right? Dog starts to lift off. Like if you're down here, you just help the dog keep going. Then you get that banshee stuff. Do you want to hear it again? Then you get that banshee stuff. Or you come up like this with the correction, pop and bring it down. 9 times out of 10, that works really well for dogs. There are the occasional dogs that will banshee out with more e-collar pressure, even if you go higher quicker. Not usually. Usually people are working too slow and moving up the dial too slow to try and beat that state of mind increase. So that's that. Now, if you're doing all that stuff, if you've done a full e-collar program and you're jumping up higher on the e-collar quicker and interrupting that, and you got one of those 1%er dogs that's not working with, then you need to find another way to be able to break that issue, right, or break that problem. A couple choices. One, you can bonk the dog. And we haven't talked a lot about bonking. And bonking, by the way, isn't what everybody thinks it is. So we haven't talked a lot about bonking here. It's turning into an adult show. Late night with the good dog. So bonking is basically something that came from this trainer named Gary Wilkes, who's actually one of the early clicker trainers, but he does clicker training along with aversive control. He's got a ton of, I think it's clickandtreat.com, I want to say is his website. But we can link something up, right? Mm-hmm. So Gary uses bonking a lot for dealing with arousal, dealing with unwanted behavior, dealing with a lot of stuff, and it's great because there's no complex tools involved. Excuse me, no complex tools involved, and the mechanics are pretty simple. It's a rolled up towel, rolled in half, and you can watch his videos and he'll walk you through it. Rolled up towel, folded in half, and then rolled up, and then rubber bands around the ends. And what he does is basically say the dog's whining in place. He'll say no to mark the behavior he doesn't like, and then he actually chucks the bonker at the dog, aiming for the head. And the reason is because he's got a whole bunch of scientific data. He's a very scientific dude, but scientific data about what it is with canids and the fact of projectiles flying towards their head is a very disconcerting thing that they can't control or can't deal with. And it goes back to like primal stuff of like trying to like bring down a bison or a wildebeest or something like that, or whatever you might bring down if you were a wild canid, and then trying to avoid like getting hit by hooves or things like that. So not to get too deep into a lot of these things that I obviously don't know much about, but bonking, like we've had dogs that have whined in place. What are you searching? What are you up to over there?
I'm looking at Jeremy's stuff.
Okay. So we've had dogs that have been in place. I don't know if you remember, we had, I think it might have been a dobie, might have been another dobie, but was in place and nothing was working to break the whining. Nothing was working, and I was like, we got to find the answer. And we ended up bonking the dog, rolled up the towel, which we always have, and boom, nope. Pop with that, and the dog was like, whoa, what is that? Man, everybody like does stuff with like my neck and like collars and but this was a whole different game. I think we corrected him twice and that was done. So that's something to look into. We'll link it up. That's cool for any of you guys watching this that are looking for extra techniques to be able to for your clients or for yourself to be able to share an interrupter or a corrective or an aversive, to be able to say, I don't like this behavior and I want it gone. And because it's so novel the way it is, most dogs have never been corrected like that. And a lot of people be like, well, it's like throwing a shoe at a dog. Well, the thing is, it's not going to hurt the dog. It's just a towel and there's not going to be any fallout from it. But because of its novelty, it definitely has an impact on a lot of dogs. Some dogs, like anything else, some dogs are like, hey, cool, let's play with this. So it doesn't work with them. Once again, dominant dog collar is something that you can always use. Applying light pressure, I think we're talking about a young dog. Just to be very clear about this isn't something about like hanging dogs or anything like that. It's basically about like pressure, knock it off. And then as soon as Laura like, no,
Stops being obnoxious.
No, start whining. Like dog whining, not your regular whining, like dog whining. Then pressure, and then I relax it. It's basically a conversation, right? It's whether it's a prong collar pop for barking or growling, or it's dominant dog pressure, or it's a bonker, or it's an e-collar pop. All these things are just pressure delivery, different ways of delivering pressure to dogs where they go, oh, I don't like that, I'll do something else. So that's what I would recommend to Janet. And once again, another very long in the tooth. I think my private jet's here for me, so I'm gonna fly out. You want to fix the rest of the show, or run the rest of the show?
Question number 3, Elijah Weiss says, hey, Sean and Laura.
Hey.
I have a question on behalf of a friend with a senior poodle who is both visually and hearing impaired, not 100%, just compromised. She generally uses a combo
Sounds like me.
clapping and loud voice to keep her close when she's off leash. She's been having more trouble at places like the beach where it's more noisy. She's been wondering about e-collar training, and I'm wondering if you have thoughts and advice on how to approach it with a dog who's virtually blind and deaf. She's a great little dog who's generally right at her side, but if she gets a little lost, then she's hard to get back and sometimes starts to run to other people looking for her owner. Thanks for any suggestions. Also, would you bring T3 to the Bay Area, please?
Bay Area.
We're going to.
Are we?
So next year we're going to do one in Florida in that first quarter, and then I think we're going to do Santa Barbara.
Oh, are we?
With Eric Smith.
Oh, nice.
And,
Cool. Santa Barbara's awesome.
Yeah.
I can just like drive right out.
Yeah, so that's not totally close. Is that considered the Bay Area? It's not.
Guys, it's all real. It's all real right here. All real. Well, it's a bay of sorts, I guess. But it's not considered like California is considered the Bay Area. That tends to be like San Francisco, Berkeley, and all that. Santa Barbara's probably 4 hours away from that.
Okay. You're right. Was everyone okay?
You gotta love her, right? Okay. She was a Barbie model.
Here's the thing. Elijah, we're going to be in California at the end of this year, so it might be worth a trip down. I mean, Santa Barbara's 3 hours away from here. You could be going.
Yeah, I mean, we get people that fly in from Europe.
Yeah.
Elijah, I don't want to put any pressure on you, but we get people flying from Europe and Mexico and all these other spots. So you could boogie on down from the Bay Area, and you could come to the I was going to say Santa Clarita, which is going to be pretty awesome. So up to you. That's sooner if you want to do sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Or you can wait and you can go to the other Bay Area. It's up to you, right? Ready? Okay. So Elijah, let me talk about this real quick. So I've got Junior, my dog. He's 15 and a half. He's laying here right now. And Junior is, in the last year, like his hearing has gone south. Boom. Really, really bad. He can hear, but it has to be extremely loud. His vision is also compromised to some degree. He can see, but I see him get confused a lot. I see him, like, he'll walk into things that he would never walk into. Like coming in and out of the gate, he won't see like a pole and he'll walk into that. But mainly, doodles, but mainly like at the park, I've had to be really careful with him. He's e-collar trained, and this is what I want to get out to you. He's e-collar trained, But the problem is because his vision and auditory stuff is compromised. When he feels a sensation, he doesn't really know what to make of it. He can't really like triangulate, if that's the right way, of like where I'm at and try and make sense of it. So it actually kind of can panic him. And I've had some close calls with him at the park as I was figuring this out, that he would be out and I'd go to like tap the button to recall him, and he wouldn't know where, I wouldn't be that far, but he couldn't see me, and then he'd start running to try and find me, and that's a really bad situation. So what I would suggest for you guys is not to go with e-collar stuff, because the dog needs some way to be able to cue in on where the actual handler is, right? So if the dog's ears are great, you could cue in with a whistle, and which wouldn't be perfect, but you could cue in with the whistle and get a dog pretty good to come back to you. If the dog was was deaf, then you could cue with visual stuff, but you'd have to make sure the dog could see you. But you've got a dog who can't do either, and it's very similar to the dog that I've got. My guy's great, he's awesome, he's not like trying to run away, but I watch him get confused. I watch, sometimes he'll sniff a tree and I'll walk a little bit away, and then I watch him and he looks around. He's not sure where I'm at, and I'm not even that far away. So what I'd suggest is a long line. Best thing you can do, cheap, easy. Get a 50-foot long line for your dog. It sounds like you guys do a lot of fun stuff, like go to the dog beach and dog park or wherever you're going. Be safe at both those places. But a 50-foot line, or they may even have longer ones. You might even go like get a 70-foot line, you know, whatever you want. I'm sure like you could rig up something if you want a really long line, like just getting like 100.
Just 250-footers.
Yeah, I mean, there's, you know, you could get like clothesline or something like that. You could rig up and put a buckle on it. But my point is that I would rather you do that so you have a hold on your dog, because honestly, at this point, it's not fair to your dog. Like, e-collar training's awesome, and I'm a big proponent, but it's not going to, and as far as in my experience, I don't think there's any way to make it fair or better for your dog. I think it's going to confuse and worry your dog more than anything. Even if they were awesomely e-collar trained, that when they feel the stem and they can't connect it to a location they need to go to, it causes confusion and panic. So I'd say no, go with the cheap long line and enjoy your dog's senior years and just try and look out for him. Yeah, or enjoy your friends' dogs, or have your friends enjoy their dog in the senior years. But that's my recommendation.
It's a great solution.
Cool, thanks.
Okay, guys, we've got question number 4. This is from Jennifer Lloyd. She says, "Here's to another great Q&A."
Oh, well, if you don't say.
Here's to it. My dog Bruno is fully e-collar trained and knows all of your foundation work.
Awesome, Bruno.
Boom. I still walk him with a prong and e-collar, however I never need to use the prong. I would like to transition off of the prong, and I'm thinking of using a dominant dog collar. I like that they're less bulky looking, and if I need to gently remind him of something, I can. Would this be a good idea? Thanks so much.
This is Jennifer Lloyd, right?
Yep.
Okay, Jennifer. Yeah, so the reason that we use prong collars and e-collars on our dogs, our client dogs, when they go home, is just so the clients have a little better leverage and safety with the dog, right? So, of course, we're being like very anal about it because they're our clients and we want to make sure everybody, you know, is as safe as possible. We always talk about like if a squirrel runs right in front of you across the sidewalk, even on e-collar, that can be challenging. Or if a car backfires and your dog is like more skittish or jumpy and like, you know, like goes to pull out into the street or something to get away from the sound, and he's not on a prong collar, he could get the best of you and like pull. Or if like an off-leash dog comes running your way and you need really good leverage or control your dog, the prong collar just gives you better leverage and communication. So that said, you can absolutely get off the prong collar and go to a dominant dog collar. I mean, Laura used to do that with
Polar bear.
I almost called him Hercules. Sorry, polar bear, because he didn't do well on a prong collar. But so dominant dog collar, and I don't know if you guys can see my hands, dominant dog collar and e-collar can be an absolutely great way to do it. The only thing I'd say is watch out for having a little less control. You'll probably end up getting a little bit more movement. It's an interesting thing, like even with highly trained dogs on e-collar, with the prong collar on, they tend to be more like, especially you hold the leash kind of short, it tends to help just kind of regulate their motion, just like the fine tuning stuff keeps them kind of in a really good spot because they just kind of feel the sensation, and so it just reminds them like, oh, I shouldn't go this way, I shouldn't go this way. The dominant dog collar is a little bit more of a benign or less
It's less like
less sensed.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the feeling is less perceived, and so I think it helps dogs to kind of be like, just doing my own thing.
Right.
And it doesn't mean you can't remind them with the e-collar, and it doesn't mean it can't be perfect and awesome. I'm just saying, be mindful that you might get a little more motion, might get a little more stuff that you have to correct initially because your dog's like, hey, prong collar's off. I might be able to do a little more stuff. Check it out. See what you think. I think it's a perfectly viable option. And like you say, the cool thing is it's a lot less jewelry on your dog. And most people won't even see the dominant dog collar on there, you know, because it's so small. But make sure that you do back up your dominant dog collar to the flat buckle collar, even getting rid of the prong, right? Hopefully you've got a carabiner from your prong to the flat over your e-collar, but make sure that you also rig up, you have to get a little bit crafty, but a carabiner from your dominant dog collar to the flat buckle collar to make sure that if that should pop off or break, I mean, it's just cord, that you don't lose your dog. What do you think? Is that a good one?
Good.
Is that a keeper?
Yeah,
Good answer?
definitely a keeper. I think you mentioned it, but you know, I think, Jennifer, that a prong collar is easier to work with than a dominant dog collar. So,
especially for motion, like when you need to like maneuver a dog around like tight, like say you're at like a farmer's market or parade if you were like Jeff Gelman.
If you
So you'll have to flash him across the screen. But if you're in like a tight confines, prong collar is just so good at like maneuvering dogs, like giving them a lot of directional information, which is pretty hard to do with an e-collar. So
what I see a lot, because I'll put my dog, I'll admit, I'll put him on a flat buckle collar.
Porcules.
Porcules. And just an e-collar, especially if we're like walking to the park and I'm just going to take the leash off the flat buckle. And, you know, I literally just see him like, say there's a squirrel or he sees a bush that he wants to pull to. When he's on the flat buckle, and you can call this that he's a not trained dog all you want. I'm totally open
I know there's
for
a bunch of like old school
Yeah,
trainers that are like,
see?
I knew it.
He's not trained.
Yeah.
Fine. Say what you will. But sure, he's not trained. I have an awesome life with him. But he really will.
Get defensive.
I'm just saying.
We're great.
He's great, but he's a dog. He's not a robot. So he still has stuff, and he'll notice when that thing's off, and he's excited too. And he's like, he'll just pull, and I'm like, why do I even
Why struggle?
Why struggle? Yeah. So if you have one of those like Belle, you can put on a slip lead or a
Flat.
Yeah, flat buckle like.
But even Belle, who's like the angel of angels, check it out. I took her out because her collar was somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll just put her on her flat buckle. Dee 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 dee. And she's like the best dog in the world.
Yeah.
And she's like pulling to a bush.
Yeah.
And like she's like.
And there's they don't give as much if they're so you can't just do like a light little pop.
Yeah.
Like.
And she's like, oh great, I love this. And Dad's pulling harder, but I'm like, So,
But
anyways.
Jennifer, the reason I bring that up is you're welcome to do whatever you will. Awesome if you have no problem with the dominant dog.
Because your dog may be great with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the thing to ask yourself is why. Why do you want to move to this tool? So I think it's because you say you never need to use it. My guess is probably because he's wearing it. So I think just see why, if it's about the perception of the prong and the e-collar, which I totally get, all that jewelry draws attention, but if it's something, I want to get off of it because, or is it like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Isn't that the phrase?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it's appropriate here.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
You mean keep the prong collar on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's great.
Okay.
But,
Yeah.
If it's not broken, so why try to change it up now? So I think just look at your reasoning. If your reasoning is more about the perception of the tools, there's always other options. You can put something on the dog or just, own it. But don't make it more difficult for yourself for that reason.
My suggestion is try it and see what you think,
Yeah.
right? If you dig it and your dog's awesome, then you're rocking. If you find out your dog's giving you a little bit of a harder time than it's worth, then go back to a prong collar. And if it is, like Laura said, because it's public perception, you're like, I don't like, put a bandana around your dog. Or just tell people to kiss your behind. That's my preferred method.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Just go like this. That doesn't mean kiss your behind, but
No.
it's just a nicer version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just give him a kiss. Blow him a kiss.
Blow him a kiss.
Is that a prong collar on your dog?
Question number 5, we've got Amber Scott. Amber says, hey, Sean and Laura, I asked a question last week about my pushy foster.
And I didn't get an answer.
And I wanted to let you know all is going well. With the help of his e-collar, he's no longer mounting my dogs and is more respectful around them in general.
And that was just last week?
Nice work.
Man. Wait, so that was the dog humping and jumping on dogs and being pushy and stuff?
Other dogs in the house, and that's the dog she's not going to keep, I think.
Yeah, and she e-collared him up?
She did.
Man, that just rocks.
She might have been e-collared before, but maybe just our...
Yeah, but just went after... Yeah.
Nice work, Amber. My question for this week is about one of my personal dogs. She's a Jack Russell Border Collie mix who competes in flyball. At first, she gets really excited when we went to trials. Now she's crazy whenever we get in the car, even when we aren't doing anything that has to do with flyball. She's also developed a toy obsession that didn't exist before. It seems like the more we've been competing, the more intense she's gotten in other areas. I want her to have a better off switch. She is e-collar trained as well.
So she said like Jack Russell Terrier and
Jack Russell Terrier
and
mix.
Did she say Jack Russell and Corgi?
Border Collie.
Man, if I'm not mistaken, aren't those specially bred just for flyball? Border Jacks or something like that. I think they're called. If I'm not, I could be crazy, but because I haven't done flyball in a few years, but I could have sworn that was kind of like coming in as like all the rage. Were
Border Jacks.
Yeah. You can comment. Let me know if I'm crazy or not. So it sounds like your dog is starting to generalize excitement, right? So your dog is really enjoying flyball, and you've got the kind of dog that would really enjoy like excitement and activity and all that stuff. So excuse me. Sounds like your dog is starting to generalize that excitement and associating it with everything and anything, and that anything means possibility. Anything means if mom breathes, we might be going to flyball, stuff like that. So that can be really challenging. Like my girl Belle, we did flyball for a long time. She's got a really good off switch, so I'm kind of lucky. But I do have to be very careful with toys and stuff like that. I have to put them all away, because if I don't, she's very obsessive with them, and she will just like literally stare at it for hours. She might even be like shaking and going through the whole process. So we didn't do flyball. I'm trying to think back in the day. Well, we did do regular, I was going to say rehearsals, but that would be music. We did do regular practices. And she would get worked up, but she's not like a Border Collie or a Jack Russell. She's got a little bit of a different thing. So I think I was blessed with a little bit of an easier time with that. So let me just consult some notes here. So generalizing excitement and associating with everything. So I know you're already doing some duration work, but I do a ton more of it. I do a lot of duration work, and I do duration work with things that are triggers for flyball. I'd have the flyball ball out. I would have your keys. I'd have all the stuff that seems to be kind of triggering. It sounds like it's really generalizing to a lot of stuff. So dogs in place, start bringing stuff out and start teaching the dog none of the stuff means anything, right? So I don't even like to feed my dogs at the same time of day every day. I mean, we have a basic kind of like time zone, but I don't like to feed them like exactly at the same time, because otherwise they're anticipatory of like I want, this is food time. And so dogs are just really good at figuring out what are what's going to be a predictor of this outcome, associating this with this is going to create this. And so the best thing to do is to kind of throw them a curveball and be like, yeah, here's the keys, here's the fly ball. None of that matters because we're not going anywhere. You stay in place, learn to relax. So I know you're doing duration work, but I'd start doing more creative duration work with bringing the stuff around that your dog is crazy about and desensitizing them to the presence of that stuff, right? Now that doesn't mean letting your dog sit with a ball and just stare at it. That means your dog's in place and the items that the dog is interested in are far enough away that the dog doesn't actually get them. So that would be something I'd try and see if that gives you any value. What else did I have for you? Make sure you put those balls and toys away, because you said toy obsession is happening. So toy obsession should only be able to transpire if the dog's allowed to have toys out constantly. So I would be focused with this dog about doing a lot more calming exercises. You'll still have all the drive and all the action and all that good stuff when you need it. Yeah. You're not going to lose it. You're not going to train it out of the dog, but you're going to train the other side. You even said, like so astutely, you need a better off switch, which is so beautiful to hear, because that's really what you need. So I would be working on toys go away, balls go away, except for when you want to train, right? Not for flyball, but for mindset. Go to place. Here's all your action. We're going to roll a ball across the room. Don't move. Not for you. Just because the ball's out doesn't mean anything. Jingle keys, go to the door, whatever, start your car, whatever might trigger your dog. And you're really just trying to counter that stuff of like, this means this. And your dog right now is getting frenzied to where everything means this. Everything means you're going to flyball. And then one of the things you can do, which would be cool, is you could do like some red light, green light. You want to talk about an on and off switch. A really cool exercise is to do stuff with those toys. And then like with the e-collar on, go out in the yard, throw the ball, dog goes, gets the ball, and then down. And then you go get the ball, dog can't move, and then break, or whatever your release command is, let your dog get revved up, bounce it, throw it to your dog, take it away, get your dog. What we're looking for is basically like raise up excitement, and then down, shut it off. Raise it up, shut it off. Raise it up, shut it off. And if you do a lot of that, your dog will start to acclimate and learn how to be able to tolerate higher levels of excitement and then be able to shut it down. It takes work, but that's we've seen some really great progress with that with dogs that have kind of like trouble managing their excitement stuff. So red light, green light is an awesome, and it's a fun game, and it's great to burn energy for the mind, and you can also play, and you can also get physical activity, but you're also really helping your dog get better and better at tolerating like, right? So cool. Anything you want to add to that?
No, it's all good stuff.
Cool. I think that's the best I can do for you, Amber.
Thanks. Okay, we've got question number 6. This comes from Jessica McKellar. She says, how can I stop my German Shepherd Doberman mix from barking at joggers when we are walking?
You can't. They all do that.
He's okay with other people who are walking. It's just jogging for some reason he barks and thinks they're playing with him. That's awesome. Jessica.
You love that.
I love it. He's like, move, move. No.
Right.
So like,
what are you moving? Why are you moving? What's going on?
Jessica, we have a very, very special guest today answering your question.
Who could it be?
Who could it be?
Jeremy.
Should you introduce it? Go ahead.
Yeah. So it's the one and the only. Jeremy's in Wisconsin right now.
Yes.
Or, I mean, not right now, but that's where he currently resides, right?
Yep.
And it's Majors Academy.
Majors Academy Dog Training.
Majors
and
Academy
Rehabilitation.
Yeah. Do we have a website for him?
Oh yeah, we'll put it up there.
Okay, great.
He needs no introduction. He's an awesome trainer. Came to T3.
Yeah, he's an awesome dude. We just love him, and he's done some amazing stuff, both as a trainer and with his life. And I think he's doing good work on a large level for a lot of people. And I like what he's about, and I like what he's making happen. Yeah. So we're proud of him, not in like the parental sense, but just in the friends cheering him on sense. He's just done really great stuff, and so we're just proud and excited for him. So I'm going to zip it up.
Trainer. If you guys live close to him, again, I'll link the stuff up there. But he's the best, and definitely worth a call. Yeah,
and a lot of folks that we know that are on our page actually follow Jeremy, and they'll say, Jeremy really helped me out with this, or we'll be talking about a similar case on my Facebook page and be like, Jeremy showed me this, and it's like, awesome stuff. So he's getting a lot of great results, and his clients are really happy. So you should talk to him if you're around him.
Cool.
Jeremy,
Hey guys, it's Jeremy here with Majors Academy Dog Training out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. And I want to thank Sean and Laura for giving me this opportunity to be on the show and answer a question. And the question is from Jessica. And Jessica asks, let me get it from my phone. How can I stop my German Shepherd Doberman mix from barking at joggers when we are walking? He's okay with other people who are walking, it's just jogging. For some reason, he barks and thinks they are playing with him. Alright, Jessica, what you want to do is really figure out why your dog is barking. Okay? Is he barking because he thinks joggers are playing with him, or is he barking because he may be a little nervous on walks? In my experience, I'm going to go ahead and say I think your dog may be barking because he's nervous. And if in fact it is because he's nervous, you really want to do a good job of building trust on the walk, because what you're doing on the walk is taking your dog's ability away to flight. And so sometimes, as to get unwanted pressure away from you and the dog, they tend to bark as a cautious kind of behavior. So what you have to do is show him that the joggers are actually nothing to be cautious over. Okay? And Sean speaks of it, Laura speaks of it. They call it advocating for your dog in that moment. Showing your dog that whatever they're nervous about, if in fact they don't have to be nervous about it, show them and guide them and teach them that they don't have to be nervous about it. So, like I said before, we want to try and gain trust on the walk to where your dog's almost looking to you for the answers, as opposed to trying to answer the uncertainty, the unwanted pressure that comes in various different forms. And in this case, it may be joggers that your dog perceives as a threat. Okay, so one of the things that we do here at Majors Academy to ensure dogs are being guided properly is we'll give a little leash correction, right as the dog is thinking that something could be a threat, or as soon as they start to become nervous. So you want to watch your dog's body language, his eyes, his ears, his tails, his hackles. What's your dog telling you when those joggers are coming? And what you want to do, and I tell people all the time, what you want to do is correct the thought, not the action. Because if you've let your dog already go into that barking mode, it's really hard to settle him down from there. But if you can kind of be there for him as soon as he looks at someone that he perceives as a threat, maybe a jogger coming by, if your dog kind of goes like this and looks, then you want to give that dog a correction right there. Maybe calling his name, maybe a leash correction or a leash pop might do the trick. But what you want to do, again, is correct the thought, not the action. If you address the thought, the action will not happen. Okay? So, to reiterate, if your dog is barking at joggers and not walkers, it's probably because joggers, your dog perceives joggers as a little bit more of a threat to you and or your dog. Okay? So I hope this helps. Again, thanks Sean and Laura for having me on the show. I love you guys, and peace and love to everyone in the world.
Thanks, Jeremy. We so appreciate you answering that question. I hope it really helped you guys out.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Ashley says, I have an update / mini question.
Excellent.
I got Hank the bark collar. A neighbor has been home all week and asked me yesterday, has Hank been at daycare? I was like,
why, no,
nope.
he hasn't.
He's been here the whole time, not a bark. However, he instead whines just as much as he would bark, and the collar cannot correct this. Although my neighbors don't hear it, it's obviously still in a stressed state of mind, even though the collar inhibits his barking. Is this something I need to set aside time to correct with the e-collar, or will he over time become more accustomed to calmer behavior? He lays down more instead of standing up, barking and pacing, but the nervousness still seems to last longer since he doesn't wear himself out barking.
Okay. Ashley, so Most likely, well, for one, congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm so great. I'm
Nice
so
work.
glad that the actual barking stuff, which can be such a disaster, like for neighbors, and that can be like get yourself kicked out stuff, and it's terrible. So glad the bark collar is working great. That's awesome. As for the whining, most likely it'll play itself out over time. My suspicion would be that over the next like month or so, that will just kind of dissipate and dissipate and dissipate. That said, you can also go after that if you want, and you can use an e-collar, and you can start, because like you said, so astutely, a lot of the bark collars won't pick up whining. You know, dogs learn that like I can go and the bark collar won't correct me, so that's how I'll try and expend that stuff. So we use e-collars for that stuff, remote collars, and then we'll correct for that whining. So that's something you can do. You can set up with a phone, with a video camera, with a drop cam, with a baby cam, something like that, FaceTime, and then have the e-collar on, go out of the room, and is this her dog? This is her dog, right?
Yep.
And then as soon as you hear any whining, start correcting with the e-collar. I don't know if she's actually on e-collar or she's done
Yeah,
any
I'm
work.
sure she's done, because she said, do I need to work this out with the e-collar?
Okay, awesome, awesome. So you're already conditioned. That's great. So start low, and a couple different things you can do. You can like tap, tap, tap for the whining, right? So whine for me. Tap, 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 tap. Right? So, so you can do it like that, pop, 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 which is just basically pressure, 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 pressure. You can pop once at slightly higher level, right? So you can press and hold. So there's a couple different ways you can go about that. But typically what I do, I start with the simplest approach, which is I start a little bit low, dog's whining, and I just find a level, like if I know the dog's working level, like typically around the house is 11, I'll probably start at like 5 or 6. Correct there. Oh, no response. Up to 11. Correct there. No response. This dog's a little worked up. Then I'm going to find a higher level. Maybe I need 15, 20, you know, something like that. And then get there and find the level that brings that whining down. With dogs that are really frantic and really insane, then you have to go higher, quicker oftentimes. But it sounds like this is just kind of simmering. So I would go in with a little bit of a lower approach and see if you can just like bop, 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 or pop, knock that out, and get him to stop doing that. But awesome, awesome stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's going to go away on its own, but if you want to try and expedite that process, then e-collar work would be good.
Yep.
Manny.
Okay. Question number 8.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna do this one.
Okay.
Question number 8. This comes from Julie.
Is this
Julie.
question number 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry about your list. I've got it.
Zip it up. It's a master
Question
plan.
number 8 comes from Julie. How do I move on from a dog attack? Long story short, I can't change our walking route. I can't help feeling nervous and on edge when we go for our walk now. The attacking dog has been put to sleep as it was very aggressive, dangerous, and deliberate.
Wow.
There are dogs the whole way along that route who bark at us along their fence line, just like the day of the attack. I just expecting one to push through under or jump over again. Julie.
Julie, I'm so sorry about
Yeah.
that. Wow, in serious situation, the dog to be put down like that,
Yeah.
that's like, must have been really, really bad stuff. So, thanks for the question. That's a good question as far as I know. There's a lot of people struggling with that, so
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked that.
It's almost like PTSD stuff.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
got
yeah,
that whole feel.
yeah. So like, part of the recovery from any trauma situation, anything that's been really horrific, really hard, had a major, mental impact, emotional impact, is just time, right?
Yeah.
I know that sounds like just cheesy and easy, but part of this is just time. Part of this is just your brain has an expectancy mode now because it's had this trauma, and so it's hearing all the same triggers that led up to that trauma.
Yeah.
And so as you're walking, the expectancy is now the same thing's going to happen, same thing's going to happen. So one of the things that's going to help you feel more comfortable is by going out every day like you're doing, and your brain's going to slowly start to realize it's not happening, it's not happening, it's not happening. And with every day, it should incrementally get a little bit better. I know that's not easy, but that's just the way the brain kind of heals itself. So part of that is going to be time. Another aspect to, I'd say, expediting or enhancing that process of healing is to empower yourself, right? So to empower yourself in a situation where you were disempowered and scared and overwhelmed by a dangerous dog. Can they see my hands here? Yeah, I'm like counting things off. I don't know if anybody can ever see this. It's all for you. The way that I would suggest, if you were my client sitting here and you're like, Sean, I just can't, this just happened and it was really horrible, and we'd talk about that, and I would just tell you what I told you about time and healing and trauma, and then I'd say, I want you to get decked out with gear that you have that makes you feel more confident, more safe, and that you have options to protect yourself, right? So we know a lot of trainers. We've got our friend like, Curtis, and Curtis is in Tennessee, or... Yep. Curtis in Tennessee, he's got a lot of off-leash dogs that come up and attack when he'll be walking dogs. He'll carry a stun baton on his walk. I know a ton of trainers that carry stun batons on their walks, and that might sound like, ooh, really, really rough, but like dog fights and vet visits and dead dogs and things like that are really, really bad. That's the worst. So stun baton you can get online. They're available in most states, but they're really good at keeping dogs away, or if a dog was to bite your dog, to be able to press a button and touch. You don't have to even get that close, and that can be a great way as an aversive to keep a dog away, but it can also be a great way to get a dog to disengage from a dog. So I think they're like $35, $40. Mm-hmm. So that's a heavy duty one. Yeah. You can get it, put it on your belt, and take it with you. The thing is, you'll probably never have to use it. But the emotional benefit you might get from just having that could be considerable. Mm-hmm. Having something that once you know how to use it, and it's just you flip the button and flip the switch and press the button, and you go, oh man, I feel like I've got something. So that's one thing. We have them here. We, when I'm in New Orleans, if I'm walking dogs in any spaces where I feel like, especially at night, in any spots where we might get off-leash dogs, I carry one with me just in case. Another thing you can do, pet convincer. Pet convincer you can get off of Amazon. It's compressed air. It won't work for every dog, but we typically say like 9 out of 10 dogs, it goes really loud, and it freaks out most dogs because it's a novel sound they haven't heard before. That's super easy. You can keep it in your pocket. You can have it with you. Halt, which is what mailmen use, or which is just a variation, if I'm not mistaken, on pepper spray. That's something you can keep with you. Problem is with that is, from my understanding, I don't think it stops the dog immediately. It eventually stops the dog, but I don't know if it's going to a really committed dog that's I'm going to go in. I don't know if it's got enough to actually stop it, but it'll probably disorient the dog fairly quickly, and then you can try and disengage the dog. I'm trying to think if I've got anything else here. So we've got stun baton, pet convincer, halt, pepper spray. Yeah, those are kind of the basic good ones. Some folks just recommend a walking stick. You go out with a walking stick, and hey, it's not pretty. The truth is, the walking stick isn't there to support you and give you a nice walk. It's to bonk a dog seriously if life or death is going on. Mm-hmm. So life is an unpredictable thing. Anywhere we go with our dogs, there's always the possibility of an off-leash dog. I always equate this. People ask this question all the time: what do I do about off-leash dogs and safety? And I always equate it to drunk drivers. You can do everything you want. You can drive safe and be super cautious and wear your seatbelt and do the speed limit, but there's always potential for something out there. There's just no getting around that, right? So all we can do is prepare ourselves. And so for the prep for you is to go out, do your work every day with your dog, try and be calm, try and remind yourself that all these sounds you're hearing don't mean that there's another dog coming at you. Unless it does mean that, unless you see another dog coming at you, but let's hope that that was a one-time deal. But having tools, having something on your person that gives you power and makes you feel more in control of your destiny, I think is a really powerful way to start to feel more confident and take back some of your power when you're in a situation that you didn't have any power and you felt scared and worried. Anything you'd add to that?
No, I think, it's just time. We see it all the time with clients that come in here that have had bad experiences. And same with the dogs, Yeah. Dogs that come in that have had terrible experiences, and all you have to do is push forward and do what you can to get yourself the most confident that you can be. Same with the dogs, the more confident. I would say with your dog, another tactic would be to focus on your dog. focus on him and focus on, making sure he's right. And that might take your mind off of what's going on around you. But preparing yourself with these other tools.
If it was you that got attacked, would you carry something to,
yeah.
if you lived in a neighborhood where...
if I lived in that type of neighborhood, I would have that stun baton ready. I would be holding it.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Just having something just makes things...
Makes you feel more comfortable. Yeah, and the sound it makes...
Yeah.
It'll scare the bejesus out of most dogs before they even get close enough. So that's, I can't remember the one that we've got. Can't remember the maker of what we've got, but I just go on Amazon. You can get them straight off of there, and they're not that expensive. I think it might be Streetwise or something like that. Yeah, we'll link it up. All right.
Let's do it. Cool.
Sorry about that.
Thanks.
Hang in there, okay?
Yeah, but update us.
Yeah, please.
Okay, cool. Okay, we've got question number 9. This comes from Coralie, and then Denise is kind of piggybacking on Coralie's question. Coralie says, "Hi, Sean and Laura. First, a quick update. We finally started our boy on e-collar. Yay! And it was a game changer. He's now almost perfect on it, I guess. And we had him on place for almost 3 hours. Yay! Okay, now a question. When we run into dogs, how do I know if he wants to play with the dog or if it's the beginning of aggression? His body language is similar. His hairs are up and his tail is up. How do I know it's aggression, and how do you correct it? Do you keep the continuous button down and walk away and say no? Not sure what to do." And then Denise on that said, "Same question as Coralie above. I take my dog to the dog park and everything looks like play or just sniffing, and then bam, there's a spat."
Until it doesn't.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Da, da, da.
Dun, dun, dun.
Is it mine?
No.
Oh. Oh, yeah.
You don't say. It's brand new. First day.
We are going to call in our buddy Blake Rodriguez.
Blake Rodriguez.
From Dream Come True Canine in Manhattan, New York.
Yeah, he is in Manhattan, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I thought he was in Brooklyn. I always think he's in Brooklyn. But
No,
I
don't think he is. I think he's in Manhattan.
So, if you are in the area and you need a dog trainer, Blake's your dude. He's the best.
Yeah, I mean, he's working with all sorts of stuff Blake really kind of cut his teeth with a lot of behavior mod stuff.
Yeah.
So if you've got training you need, like regular training, they do that. They do group classes. I think they might even do boarding and stuff like that as well. But I think their forte is behavior mod. So if you've got a dog with resource guarding or dog aggression or human aggression stuff like that, and you're in New York City or around there, they're the guys to go see. So I would go check them out. Right now we're going to hand this over to Blake and hope he's got good answers for us. Ready?
Okay, first off, I want to apologize right now off the bat for butchering your name. This question is for Coralie or Corali, or if you're Mexican, Corale Holmes. But that's besides the point. I want to go ahead and say everything that you're doing, awesome. It looks like you're having really, really phenomenal success getting your dog on the remote collar. I'm going to assume that means that your dog is healing and placing, practicing impulse control, all fantastic things. I'm really, really happy for you. So go ahead and answer your questions. This is something that I deal with a lot. When you're new to seeing your dog behave a little bit differently and play sort of looks like aggression, there's a couple of protocols that we have here. So we're regularly dealing with these type of dogs, and we're regularly dealing with a bunch of high volume people because we do walk in the middle of Manhattan, New York City, right? So let me make sure I just double check this. Good old New York City, you hear the fire trucks here. So when you run into dogs, how do you know if he wants to play with the dog or if it's the beginning of aggression? So first thing I'm going to go ahead and say is if you're walking your dog on leash, you want to first get your dog in the habit of seeing these triggers and not concerning about these triggers or not fixating about these triggers, right? If you're doing this off leash, I'm actually going to suggest that you start to practice walking in areas where other dogs might be on leash. The main reason you want to keep your dog engaged with you, if you get eye contact, bonus, fantastic. If you don't, as long as your dog is connected, you want to first start the dog off the right way on the walk mentally. Get the dog walking with you nicely, which it seems like you're doing. So that way, when you go into needing to correct your dog, you want to be catching things on a very, very low level, right? Don't wait until the explosion. Don't wait until you say, let's see how this goes, aggression, and then correct it. Get your dog used to seeing these things, walking by these things, and not concerning, not fixating. The little inkling of concern, if I'm the dog, and I'm walking by, I'm walking with you, life is good, all of a sudden I see a dog and I start to do this, you actually want to disagree or correct. Now when I say correct, doesn't mean that your dog necessarily did something wrong, but you're trying to condition a habit. You're trying to teach your dog that seeing other dogs is not such a big deal, all right? Doesn't mean that you're preventing your dog from playing, doesn't mean that you're preventing your dog from looking. Essentially what you're doing in the beginning, you're teaching your dog how to look. You're correcting your dog for how they're looking, right? If a dog is calm looking at another dog really nice, that's a really good sign. Let your dog practice seeing that and walking away, continuing on the walk, staying focused with you. Oh, cool, there's a dog, but we're walking right now. Get your dog in the habit of doing that, right? All those little inklings, catch it on a very low level, so that way your correction isn't a whammy of a correction, but it's just reminding them, nope, keep doing what you're doing, stay focused on what our current task is. When you get really, really good at that, and your dog can see a dog no different than you walking by on the streets, and you can see a person and you don't freak out, I'm sure you love people and you're social also, the fact that you don't freak out and lose it or need to pull, whether it's for aggression or excitement, the fact that you can do that, there's no reason why your dog can't do that either. That's the point that I'm trying to make, right? Once that's getting really, really good, what I would start to do is on a long line, if you're in a park or if you're in a really, really open area where you have space, practice that remote collar recall. Practice your dog seeing something and being able to be called off, right? So when we're talking about calling off, we're talking about the head going this way, the body following and continuing, rather than turning for pressure, but then giving the butt, like if this is the leash, the butt toward you to still walk away, but facing that dog. That's a dog that's not connected with you. And the first priority is having a dog that's more mindful and concerned with you than the rest of the world. If they are doing something and all of a sudden you use the remote collar and a little leash pressure and you say, here, you get that recall, you want a dog to first have them understand that they have the ability to actually feel some level of anxiety or some level of excitement, which could be good excitement or bad excitement, right? It could be excited to go say hi. It could be excited because they want to go ahead and they're anxious and maybe attack. Feel that level of excitement and also make the choice to turn away, all right? What this does is it's going to start to instill confidence in a dog to teach him that there is an alternative option. So if that's drilled enough, when the dog is in the middle of doing something, you can practice calling the dog out. Another thing that we want to look at is we want to make sure that the dogs that your dog is meeting are relatively calm and relatively polite. We also want to, in the very beginning, avoid face-to-face. This eye contact looking can usually be really, really tough. A lot of times you want curiosity. If a dog is leading with the nose and smelling the nether regions or the belly and doing a little bit of this, that's a good sign. If your dog is getting into that and all of a sudden tenses up and is over here, you gotta really be able to read your dog to know if that's the level where it's gonna go into play or something else. Now, having said that, if you think that when it reaches that level of going into play or potentially aggression, that you're no longer relevant where you can interrupt and call away or interrupt and get that dog to completely stop, then that's what we want to work on first, because you're going to now start putting yourselves in situations where you know in a worst case scenario, you're still relevant and you can actually handle that safely, right? So what I call that is actually middle name relevance. I don't know what it was like for you growing up as a kid, but if my mother, let's say I was up playing baseball and I was up to bat, you know, playing in the backyard or something, and my mother yells out the window, Blake, dinner, Blake Daniel. Once I hear Blake Daniel, that bat is going to my friend because my mother just called me by my middle name, and that is more important than anything else. So it doesn't mean my mother's hitting me, doesn't mean anything, but it just has the relevance where the rest of the world stops. That's the type of relevance that you want before you start going into these things. And you can practice that with proximity work. That's why I'm giving you the advice to do a lot of those recall things. And even when you get to a point where your dog meets, if the dog is calm, first it has to be used to not meeting, right? Don't rush that. The dog is used to seeing things and walking by. Now your dog is going to be calmer with the approach. You have the second dog that is also calmer. You practice a little bit of smelling. It's successful. Before it escalates, call your dog out. Good boy, awesome. If you want to treat or you want to feed because you know how to work your dog for food and you use markers, that would be a good time for marking the choice rather than trying to use that food to get the dog to listen, right? So you're rewarding for good behavior, not rewarding to get good behavior. You do that enough times, your period of letting the dog smell starts to increase because your dog knows that it has the ability and is developing not only confidence in you, but confidence in the ability to make a choice to actually peel away if it gets too much. And if it needs additional info, you're relevant enough to call your dog out, right? That might be on leash, you might be at a point where you're just remote collar or just vocal at that point. So these are all levels of progression, right? When you do this enough, we do this in our pack socialization class here that we have in New York City all the time, and also with the dogs that come in here for our board and train programs, right? So we practice a little bit, call the dog out with clear recall where the leash pressure is guiding the head, not pulling the dog back. This is very important to understand. A dog cannot turn this way. A dog can turn this way or a dog can turn this way. So if the dog is here and I'm smelling, you would want your leash pressure to be this way to guide the head away rather than back or rather than into the dog to call the dog out. So we have to be very, very mindful with the direction of our pressure or what I would call how clear our communication is. And we also want to be really, really on point with our timing. Start slow, build your way up. You will be successful. Super, super happy and couldn't be more proud of what you guys got going on and what you've accomplished so far. Now you just keep pushing. There's always room for improvement. I'm looking to improve with my dog every day. I really hope that helps. And thank you so much, the Good Dog, for and thank you so much, Good Dog, for allowing this opportunity. For me, I'm very, very honored and humbled. Can't wait to get you guys answering one of our questions on our Dog Behavior Question Tuesdays. Our YouTube show, episode 3, is coming up, and we really, really look forward to having you answer one of our questions on there. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks, Blake, so much for that.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
We love you. Big hugs, and stay dry and cool in New York.
I think they are dry.
Are they? Isn't it humid in New York in the summer? I always think of like...
Yeah, but I think they're okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Enjoy yourselves out there. Mm.
Okay, question number 10 in this epic battle of proportions, or whatever proportions. Simi, Leon. Whatever happened to Rachel the bear?
Rachel the bear's left us.
She's like, I'm good.
She's like, I've got all the stuff I need. Thanks, guys.
She's like,
You've
Rachel
humiliated
Bear's
me enough.
Dog training and rehabilitation. All right, Simi Lion.
Yep.
Ooh, I've got a question.
I like
Lion.
I like it.
Lion. But it's Monday, LOL. My Shepherd Lab mix seems to have an...
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Hey guys, we don't typically shoot until Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah.
So even if you don't
Add
get
away.
questions in until like Tuesday, maybe even Wednesday, you can maybe sneak it in on Wednesday, but I'd say like Tuesday, don't sweat it.
Don't sweat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, easy breezy. Wednesday, possibility.
My Shepherd Lab mix seems to have an instinctive knack for knowing where snakes are hiding.
This is so awesome.
He was a stray when I picked up a few years ago, and when I found him, he was woods savvy. Generally speaking, he's an excellent trail dog because he'll guide me and himself in a wide berth around snakes when we're hiking. This afternoon, he lunged up out of a lazy afternoon siesta and snarled and chased my little beagle mix away from a pile of leaves, and sure enough, there was a little copperhead hiding in there.
Oh, wow.
So his attack on my beagle was to drive his nosy little stuff away from the danger.
That's awesome.
The beagle was surprised and befuddled, but not injured. I didn't train him for this, he just has it, but he's getting on in years, and this is a trait I'd like to have in another dog in the future. So my question is it possible to train snake smarts and or gator smarts into a dog, or is this strictly instinctive behavior? I'll take
The question is, do alligators really bite?
According to these stats.
They might. Okay, Sammy, hopefully I'm not butchering your name. So I think you got really lucky here. I think you got one of those dogs where it's just been experience, like special environmental stuff, just lifestyle, just having to live a certain way, and then special genetics. Like sometimes you just get these magic dogs who just have skill sets that like are virtually impossible to replicate or train. Now I'm not saying there's not somebody out there could do it. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I honestly believe, like from what I've seen with dogs, so much of it is like unique skills, just like all of us, from unique environmental experiences combined with genetic experiences, combined with genetic, combined with genetics, creates special stuff. And I think that's what you got right there. So I would, for one, I'd just dig him and enjoy him and really
So
appreciate
cool.
it. Yeah, it really is cool. I've never heard that before. That's Lassie stuff.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, of course, you can train like snake avoidance stuff, right? So while you can't maybe train Lassie stuff, you can train your other dogs to avoid snakes. And just the snake avoidance training is widely available pretty much around the country, anywhere where there could be snakes. So I'm sure you could get that, but that's not like magic stuff. That's not like, wait, woo, 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 come over here, there's a snake. That's more like dogs is going, oh, snake, and I'm out of here. And then as far as gators, I don't know about gator avoidance, but somebody should be training it. So there's a whole little thing about that.
We won't get into it. If you guys care about it, you can ask in the comments. I just think that you're a very lucky dog owner, and I think it's really cool. The cool thing about having dogs is each of them have their own little thing, you know? And it becomes a story like, oh yeah, this dog that I have does this, and oh, I remember that dog that I had that did this, you know? There's always, they've got their own special little things, so just enjoy that, and you know, who knows, you may get another dog that has another special skill that you won't be able to believe. So it's really cool.
Yeah, cool, awesome. Thanks. Hopefully that's informative in some fashion.
All right, guys, we've got a little update for you. This is from Rachel Andrews. Rachel says, I wanted to give you an update on Bentley since it's been a little while. He's still doing great. This week we are visiting family who has a bunch of outside cats. Yesterday Bentley got in a tuffle with one of them and got a big correction. Now we go outside and I can see him leering at the cat out of the corner of his eye, but he doesn't leave my side. He learned his lesson, I'd say, but I wish I would have corrected that cat also.
Nice work. Nice.
Good. That's awesome. That's yeah.
It's interesting to see what the value of a high consequence for dumb behavior, how it changes behavior and choices like that.
Just like that.
So it ain't magic, but done right, it sure looks like magic.
Nice work.
Nice. Thanks.
Cool.
Okay, so is this the end of the show?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Do
so
you want to do that, or do you not care about it?
about
That little insert to.
yeah, I can insert. I mean, do you think it's gonna like make the show like 1,000,000 hours?
It will, but.
Do you want to add that to like the teaser thing?
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Cool.
You like that better?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what am I saying?
Goodbye. Let's wrap it up.
Okay. Okay, guys. So it's another epic show. They seem to be getting longer rather than shorter. So we're gonna really do our best. I think it's me. I think I'm the problem here. I think I'm get a little wordy. I think.
I have nothing to say.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of me. So I'm gonna get a little trim, a little bit slim and trim on this on these responses, and but I think it was a good show.
Great
I like
show.
that one. A lot of cool answers, some different answers, or I should say different questions,
Different questions.
than we usually get. There's some cool ones in there that I think are pretty interesting. So that's cool. Just remember, guys, use the right tools, right approach, and if you will love your dogs by leading them, you can help your dog be the best version of themselves they can be. That's about it. I'd say we're out of here. You ready?
39
Boom.
in the
books.
can. We love you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in every week. It makes our week.
Yeah, it really
Cool.
does. Thanks, guys. See you. Bye.